everyone, welcome to my brand new Christmas is Coming series. This is all about batch making cards. So I'm going to show you some simple card ideas that you can batch make so that you have a huge pile of cards by the end of November ready to send out in December to all your family and friends. So decide how many cards you want to have at the end of the month and divide it by 5, and that's how many you need to make of each of the card designs as you find them posted on YouTube. I have made a little PDF file to go along with this card series. If there are any little templates, they'll be included, but mainly it's for the card measurements for each of the card designs. So if you want that, pop along to my blog, click on the email button which is on my right hand sidebar, and you can email me and say please send me the PDF file, and I'll be happy to do that. So this is the card I'm going to show you how to batch make today, and this one's all about stamping and trying to keep things simple and clean. That's the best way to go if you want to get the job done quickly. There are some details on the card that take a little bit more time, but the actual stamping of it is no time at all. So I'm using the holly stamps from Creative Expressions. You may not have this set, I'm well aware of that, but I'm pretty sure that you can find within the stamps that you've got some kind of swirl that you can use to hang your baubles from, and some kind of pine cone or similar that you can make your baubles, and of course some kind of Christmas quote. So that's 3 stamps that you'll need: a swirl, something to make baubles with, and a Christmas quote. And you will be able to make a card very similar to this one. The other thing is to match your ink to the cardstock that you're going to be mounting the whole stamped design upon. So today I've matched my ink, which is going to be chipped sapphire distress ink, with this lovely glittery cardstock, and I'm working on a white card base. It measures 8 inches by 8 inches, and I've scored it at 4 inches. So that's your first job, to make the right amount of card bases for cards that you will be making today. I'm going to mount my card design onto this lovely blue glitter card, and it measures 3.5 inches by 7 inches, and I've cut 2 pieces for each of the cards that I'll be making today. One will go on the outside and one will go on the inside. So just to start with, I'm attaching the piece that's going to be on the card front. I'm using glue. You could equally use double-sided tape, and you just want to centre it onto the card base. So where I've got this white and almost purpley blue colour scheme going on, you could quite easily make this card in cream and then use perhaps a burgundy ink or a dark green ink and mount it onto dark green or burgundy cardstock. So I've also cut 2 pieces of cardstock that measure 3 3/8 by 7 3/8, and I'm going to stamp one for the inside of the card and one for the outside. So starting by working on the stamping for the outside of the card. So this is step 2. I'm inking up my stamp with my chipped sapphire distress ink. This is a swirl. This could be perhaps a branch actually of foliage if you wanted to hang some baubles from that. So there's another idea if you don't have a swirl that you can use. Now you need to stamp this swirl so that it's far enough into your card that you're going to be able to hang a couple of baubles from it. So it's roughly 1/2 inch down from the top of the card, and then I'm just making sure that the edge runs off the left hand edge of the card, and then I'm stamping my swirl in position. Now the trick with this kind of stamping, you want it to look elegant, so you need to keep it looking clean. So try not to get any ink onto the edges of your stamp, and obviously try not to get mucky fingerprints onto your card fronts. That's quite a feat for me. So I try to work slowly. I work better actually on video because I am working slowly to make sure that I get in all the detail. So just disappearing a little bit off camera here, but this is my Christmas message. So I'm centering it left to right on the card base, and again it's about 1/2 inch up from the bottom of the cardstock. Now that piece of yellow foam you can see in the background is acting as the cushion for my stamps, because my stamps are unmounted, and it helps me get a lovely crisp image. So it's just a piece of funky foam. You can see it's been well used, and I'm just stamping that Christmas quote on the bottom of this panel. Now when you're stamping, you can choose perhaps to do all your swirls in one go and all your quotes in one go, and then finally stamping all of your baubles. But just to make things easy on camera, I'm just showing you the 3 different steps to stamp your card front, and you can choose which way around you want to stamp them. 3 pinecone baubles on our card front. One of them hangs on its own and one of them, or 2 of them, hang next to each other, so we need a mask in order to achieve this look. So I'm just taking my post-it note and stamping where the sticky area is on the other side. I'm just stamping one of my little pine cones, and I need to cut this out. Now if I was making a ton of these cards, I would cut out a couple at the same time, because eventually they're going to lose their sticky and perhaps get a bit overloaded with ink. So it's worth taking a little bit of time just to make your mask perfect and cut it out so that you have got a lovely pine cone ready to act as a mask. So just taking a look at what we're going to try and achieve, we want the 2 pine cones on the left hand side hanging one behind the other, and we're going to achieve this by using a mask. So I'm positioning my first pine cone. It's the one that hangs the lowest and it's the nearest to the left hand edge of the card. So I'm stamping that first. This is the pine cone that's in the very foreground. Then I'm covering that pine cone with the mask, and then I'm going to stamp the second pine cone. So making sure everything stays nice and clean, inking up my stamp, and then just raising the pine cone slightly and stamping over the top right hand corner of the pine cone. And then when I remove the mask, I've got one pine cone hanging behind the other, and then finally the one that's on the shortest string and closest to the right. So 3 pine cones in total. So you can tell by the change on my craft mat that I stamped the inner at a slightly different time to what I stamped the top of the card. So I'm just going to show you all the stamping in one go. So this is your second piece of white cardstock for your card, and you're going to just decorate the inside just to match the outside, and I decided to put a little swirl at the bottom. So coming in from the bottom right and then coming in from the top left. Again, roughly about ½ inch down from the top or up from the bottom of the card. And then to finish all the stamping, you just need to add your greeting to the centre of the panel. So I've inked up with my chipped sapphire, making sure my words are the right way around, although actually it wouldn't matter on this inner, I could quite easily flip it, and then stamping those words in the middle. So you could quite easily use a pen to join your baubles to the swirl if you want to, and you could even draw in a little bow at the top of each of those baubles. I'm using my ruler to put a little mark in the centre of the bauble and then up so that it will be hanging from the swirl. So just moving in a bit so you can see what I'm doing. So it's great to have a gridded ruler to do this. So I'm making sure that the line that I get is parallel to the edge of the card. So just putting a little mark on the centre of the bauble and also on the place where the little hanging thread will hit that swirl. So centre of the bauble and on the swirl. So they're the marks that I'm going to pierce the card. So I'm just going to use a matte pin to do this. So I've got 3 little holes on the swirl and 3 little holes on each of the baubles, or 1 on each of the baubles. So I'm using a piece of embroidery thread that matches as near as I can the ink that I've used, and I have knotted the end of the embroidery thread. So coming up through the first bauble and then back down through the swirl, and then back up through the swirl and down to the second bauble. So now the trick here is to make sure you get your tension right. You don't want the thread so tight that you curl your cardstock, neither do you want it so loose that those hanging threads are all floppy. So it's just trying to strike the right balance. You don't want the card like this, but you want the threads to be nice and straight. Then I'm coming up to the third bauble and then back down through the swirl, and then I'm just making sure my tension is right before I just flip the card over and stitch into this nearest thread. So I'm just creating a little bit of a knot to keep the thread in place. And once more, just to make sure that it doesn't come undone. And then you can trim off the excess. I'm just adding a little dot of glue to make sure that everything stays in place. So I'm leaving my needle on my thread because I just want to be able to use it to just pop a thread underneath each of these hanging strings, and I'm just going to make a little tiny bow at the top of each of my pine cones. So I'm trying to keep the bows small enough that they don't encroach on one another, particularly these two that are right next to one another. So just normal little bootlace bows, and then just pull the bow until you're happy with the size of the loops and trim the tails to match. So that, if you find that one's a little bit big, you can just readjust them and snip the ends of the embroidery thread. So happy with those two, adding a little tiny dot of glue. This glue dries clear just to make sure those little bows stay in place. And then finally the third and final bow. My threads have just caught a little bit there, and pulling them back together and trimming them to size. Now it's time to add a little bit of bling to the card. So I've decided to add a little diamante to each of the swirls from which my little baubles are hanging. I'm definitely adding a little touch of glue underneath each of them, even though these rhinestones are self-adhesive. I always find that a little touch of glue just makes sure that they survive the post. And then I'm using a glue pen. I'm just sliding those bows up a little bit out of the way, and I'm colouring in all the white areas on my pine cones with this little quickie glue pen. And then I'm adding some sparkle, so a little bit of glitter to each of my pine cones. So I'm doing them one at a time to make sure the glue doesn't dry in between each of the pine cones, and then adding the glitter and tapping off the excess. All that's left to do is attach the inners and the card toppers to your card. So I'm going to attach my card topper with glue because I am using glitter cardstock. Now if you use double-sided tape and you get a lot of glitter shedding from your cardstock, the chances are the topper will fall off and you'll have lovely glittery tape beneath. So I always like to use glue, make sure that everything sticks down. And then I have attached the second piece of glitter card to the inside of the card. And then again, I'm just using my glue to attach that stamped inner. And that's your card complete. So you've got all your toppers attached and all of your inners. So this Christmas It's Coming series was supposed to be with all the best intentions of being ready to post my Christmas cards in time for Christmas. And as usual, it's all followed exactly the same pattern as normal. I start out with good intentions, and then time, I just don't know where it goes. There's a Christmas drain somewhere, and that's where it's all gone to. So I hope that you don't mind too much. I've posted other Christmas card ideas. This is card number 3. I do have the other 2 ready to edit, so hopefully they'll be up in quick succession and just give you some ideas for those last minute Christmas cards. So until next time, if you like my videos, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit the like button, the share button, etc., and share that Christmas spirit. And I look forward to crafting with you again soon. Thank you for watching. So click on this link to go back to my blog to pick up that email address so that you can email me for your PDF file for this card series. I've also included a link here for my Christmas card playlist. It's quite a short one at the moment, but it'll be growing throughout this series. And I also have a Christmas project playlist, and included in that is how to make this gorgeous clock using a Tim Holtz altered clock base. So I hope that's put you in the mood for Christmas, and I will see you again soon.